Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew with the Market Mindset. It's always a pleasure to catch up with Robert Rohlfing here, CEO and Chairman of Desert Mountain Energy. Of course, I keep on talking about it a lot, but we've got some a news release that came out and some catching up to do, and we're getting close to production as well. So it's a great time to be talking to you. And despite the chaotic markets, you know, you guys are hitting milestones and everything's looking pretty rosy on your side.
It really is. You know, there's disappointments, you know, some little, chip or some little chip manufacturers. So it delays something. And there's this, I mean, and everybody, there's not a company out there right now that doesn't have some kind of an issue with logistics and just trying to get stuff. So I'm really proud of our team that we've managed to cut down on the vast majority of them to the best of our ability. You know, and in the press release I put in there, you know, like on the trucking company.
Yeah.
For the total investment because I didn't buy 160 trucks. It's not, I don't want to run a huge trucking company. Wanted something that would fit our needs to where we're not just paying out, shelling out for it. And it, in the process of working with trying to keep them busy, I could keep those 5 trucks busier than I want to keep them. And so I talked to the guys who we're having driving. They're all experienced. They're all people who haven't had a bunch of accidents and personal injury accidents or accidents with rigging, because rigging is very dangerous. It really is. So
yes,
but you just can't become complacent with it. And so I had my pick of the litter on who I wanted, and I got some really highly experienced people, and it enabled me to go in and get some basically some light contracts put together. We've got the next 28 plus months of trucking lined out. I mean, that's how, and that's just, you know, we don't have to cut into that to do our stuff. And everybody we do a contract with, they understand that when we get ready to drill, moving the rig for us is number one priority. Sorry. And there's other people who do other trucking. So, and to be able to get, it looks like, based on the amount of work we have and the dollars and cents that go with it, it looks like it will be a total dollar for dollar return on investment by the end of June.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's such a great way.
And that was not just a couple $1,000s that we put out for those vehicles. So that in and of itself was amazing. You know, we may not hit exactly that target. You know, it might be 2 or 3 days into July. I don't know, you know, but it's, and when I say all in, I mean, that's for not just the vehicles, but that's for the front payment on the insurances, all of the insurances that you have to prepay, and setting up for, with all the vendors. Yeah. Because a lot of the specialty vendors that we use on that, they require deposits. And so all in on everything, and it's, setting aside payroll, is like actually in 30 days. I wish I could do a stroke of business like that give me one of those a month, let alone every day. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great way to deal with the supply chain issues. I mean, you get to handle it yourself, you solve a problem, and it returns your investment, and say, even if it was 45 days. It's a pretty quick solution, and you got them busy for the next 2 years plus. Pretty awesome. It's great.
And so then you look at, you know, like the drill rig. we're making money off that drill rig every day. It's working for somebody else.
Yeah.
I think we did some prepayments and it helped them. But it put us in the driver's seat on it. And we're not making a huge amount, but basically it's another place to make another 950 to 1.2 million a year.
Yeah.
For
excellent.
a prepayment.
Yeah.
And we don't use it anyway. So.
And the processing facility is continuing. I think you're going to be adding some photos to the site soonish in the next couple months or weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably within a couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we could show a progression
Yes.
and that was my thought. I didn't want to just post a bunch of nondescript photos.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted to be able to show a progression. And so I'm looking forward to throwing that out there just to help give folks another sense of reality to it.
Yes. Yes.
And then as far as I know, everybody wants to know exactly what it's going to run at. I'm not saying.
Yeah. I
don't know.
People keep on asking. Yeah.
What's the keep asking, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I want to try to explain to people why we're going to start it out in the manner in which, because again, this is a first of its kind in the world to run on solar and hydrogen. This is number one.
Yeah.
No one else has done this. I don't want to just flip the switch and have I think it's 54 computers involved in this and all the hundreds of sensors, and just expect it to instantly work. That's just not realistic.
Yeah.
So you started off slow. Plus, you don't really know. I keep saying this, and people want to know, well, exactly what are these wells going to produce?
Yeah.
No one has had this basically high of a nitrogen well or combination of wells, and with this level of helium in it, and then have a formation, not crater on it. Everybody, it does.
Yes.
I don't care if you're in Western Canada or wherever. And as soon as you go over like about a 4%, or from my studies, about 4.23% methane, or the carbon chain molecules, that puts a different twist on the formations and how the gas. And exactly, people think you can just helium, just another gas.
Yeah.
No, it has a different compressibility factor. How it moves within a formation is totally different. And one of the things that a lot of folks have tried to, or they've chosen to ignore, is water.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want water in a well.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it's a matter of only the cost to handle it. It comes down to helium. Helium does not attract to water like oil and gas. So I tried to do this analogy to try to paint a picture to help people understand. In in the Permian, or in Texas, or North Dakota, or in Oklahoma, or there's any number of states where they drill these horizontal wells, and then they do a frac job. Then they try to move as much water as they can and keep moving water.
Yeah.
And then what it does, as you move the water through the formation, it lowers what's called the interstitial pore pressure within the formation itself, and it allows the oil or natural gas to come out, and it gets dragged in with the water. And the more water you produce, and then the faster you lower the pore pressure, then you get more oil, and then you have to maintain that. Helium is stable. It's not attracted to water at all. Doesn't move with it per se.
Yeah.
It does to a very minute, but because it is stable on an ion, it's not like it. It's called the different type of bonding. You have covalent, and there's other types of bonding within rocks and minerals. So it's a very, at best, light bonding under a perfect scenario. And when you start moving water, and that's one of the things I want to stay away from.
Yeah.
So getting back to how much you don't produce, I'm going to start it off. Number one, I have a brand new system. We're going to ramp it up slow.
Yeah.
Then something that has occurred that I knew about it. I had been approached over a year ago. There's some other private people who have drilled some helium wells in Northeast Arizona. They decided they don't want to do the offtakes with some of the other people.
Okay.
So it provides us an opportunity to make money off other people's processing. And I want to understand, once we have ours set to different production levels, what happens if you have someone bring over a truck at varying pressures?
Yes. Yep.
And it could have varying amounts of different gas makeup. What's that coming in at? So we have a sensor, a series of sensors, both on the outbound and the inbound, so you can see exactly what's incoming, and the computers will adjust everything to this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, yes, the programs were written, yes, this should work. And I mean, it's been done with other types of gas. So I'm not just pulling this out of the top of my head.
Yes.
But it's like, I want to see if we can blend that in, and at what rate you can blend in at different levels of our production, because my goal is to have my production first. But if I can add additional revenue for the company,
Perfect. Yeah.
and that sets the stage for additional plants, where these people would be a whole lot closer to like the second plant or something like that, or additional plants. It's all knowledge based, maybe in another state. How you bring all of that together, and because you've got to have the input, you have to have the data to set future operations by.
Yeah, and let me ask you, like with other noble gases in there, is it the same kind of process? Is this plant able to distinguish the difference, and maybe like, does it segregate it, or how does that work?
The hydrogen comes out first, and because hydrogen is highly reactive, the way you get the hydrogen to come out first on the first step is you actually put in deionized water, a very small mist.
Yep. Yep.
And the hydrogen attracts it. So that's the first thing you get rid of. So then that goes over into a bladder tank. Yep. And it's not pressurized into it, but it just goes over there. So it will be held back, and that'll come out with some of the other methane and other stuff. Yep. That'll go into a separate tank. And we'll run the compressor, we'll run the other generator based on that, or we can blend that in with compressed natural gas, whatever ends up being. But that's how we strip that. Then you go for the nitrogen. Yeah. And it's actually like 3 steps to drop out the nitrogen and the remaining helium with it. Then you get down to the final, and you get down to different levels of purity for the helium.
Yes.
As far as the rest of the noble gases, depending on where they're coming out at, some of them, there is another step that we can add in to actually force other steps to drag out other quantities of aspect. The amine unit drags out any residual CO2, and there's some different things, and how we set that up. We can take out small amounts of other noble gases. The gas composition of these other companies' product, it's so minute. I'm not even worried about the little bit of neon or xenon.
Yeah,
it's so minute.
Yeah,
we're talking 6 decimal points out, so it doesn't really affect anything. But I want to make sure that we can sense this and see what we're starting out with, because as soon as we get that, we can prove that up, and it doesn't happen just on a 24-hour time span.
Yeah,
you need to run different truckloads, because even there's a lot of people want to know, well, why did you say a blended? And we want to know exactly what each well did, and I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Number one, it doesn't matter. It's what do I think those wells, each well individually, what is the throughput going to be? That's the more important part, because you can have one that's considerably higher, one that's lower, and the different pressures from the different zones at different depths. So what are they don't actually produce that? That's the important part. It's not like, oh, well, just so you have some fictitious number
Yes.
blown up out here. And that's what people want me to make up numbers.
They want, yeah, they want the
making up
speculation.
Numbers.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
not.
Yes.
I do not understand. I'm not going down that path because that would be it. The scientist in me, you don't make up numbers. Sorry.
Yes. It's actually a bad kind of thing that a lot of us in the investment world has gotten used to is it's kind of like the P ratios of 500 on companies. We're like, listen, just tell me what it might be worth in 2078. Like,
yeah.
And then we've got a model we can apply to that. So they just want it all, tell me now. And then if you're right, then the price remains the same. If you're wrong, we're going to punish for you later. Like,
yeah. And so it's like, realistically, it gives us a chance to go down the road further and have some smaller other individuals come in. And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, and the way when I touched on, they don't want to do offtake contract. And people want to know, well, why don't you do an offtake contract? Well, I'm going to give you an example, a real world example. I'm not going to say the name of the company that did this, but it's more than one.
Yeah.
And they're in the helium space. So they go out, they put their deal together, raise their money, do the stock, they come in and they go produce the wells. And then they go put them online and they do an offtake contract. Perhaps that it's because they actually have natural gas and it's basically a natural gas deal and they're going to strip helium out of it.
Yeah.
So they take a prepay or they're just going to get paid. Well, most of those contracts on that are between $206 and $215 per MCF. And you look what just happened. I mean, last week, the price, the crude price on any given week is, since it's not published and the actual contracts that people for the end users, the way some of the other companies have their contracts set up, if you reveal what you're paying, you lose your helium supply. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So it's like, how you do I have my ways to find out, and I'm not going to compromise anyone or anything. But it gives you an idea. Do you want to get paid 500 to 1,000? Or do you want to just get paid 206 or 212 or 215 or whatever? I'm sorry, that changes the basis from on just a ROI basis from like 6 months to 36 to 48 months. It changes the entire landscape. I'm not doing this to be an offtake. I'm doing this. I keep saying this, and I will continue. We are building a fully vertically integrated helium producer. That is our primary. I'm not interested in trying to produce a bunch of natural gas, even though at these prices, $8, $9, it would be. But, I've been around the oil patch long enough. It goes up, it goes down, and you ride these waves.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you base everything long term. And that is why I didn't do, almost every single end user wanted a 5-year contract.
Sure. Yeah.
For a preset price.
Yeah. Of course you would.
No.
Yeah.
And there's like some of the largest companies, private companies in the United States that do a lot of research. They had their helium supplies cut by 45%. And now with the deal that Russia said that now we're not going to sell anything unless it's, to within ourselves. So they cut off the neon and that. And Russia, with the Donetsk fiasco, when they went in there, they just go in and shell everything. Yeah. And just, well, they didn't just take out a choke point on those processing facilities for neon and helium. They took out the tanks, the processing facilities, the connect, and you're talking years to rebuild that. And that's why people, to answer other folks' question that they posed, it's like, well, aren't you afraid that the market, you know what, anything can happen? somebody else could suddenly make the largest helium discovery
Yeah.
in the world ever. If somebody's drilling, I mean, doesn't make sense, but it could, theoretically. And I just say, boy, darn, why didn't I think to go drill there? And it'd be like, oh, okay, well, wish you all the best, but we're still on our track.
Yeah.
I am still laser focused. And when I brought Marta in.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of folks that maybe don't truly appreciate that, how brilliant she is. Plus, yes, we worked with her basically for the last 2+ years with the state of Arizona.
Yeah.
We worked well together. Doesn't mean everything went perfect, but when you're working with, you develop working relationships with people, and you understand more about exactly how they think, where their mindset is, and it's comfortable to work within that because you see them in very stressed situations, and how they choose to respond, or in some cases not respond. Step back for a moment and not just blow up. I took a run at it, and she decided to come join us, and so we're tickled to death. But yes, I did. I have been chided about stealing the head of the Oil and Gas Commission, and I'll take that badge and say, yes, I did.
Yeah, and she's got multiple degrees from Colorado School of Mines.
Oh yeah.
Program Administration, Arizona Oil and Gas Commission. I mean, she's great, a great steal.
Oh yeah, so it helps on not only political aspects,
sure,
but for regulations. I mean, she has been connected with the work on the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, plugging. There's so many different levels that Marta's worked on, and but her base is still geology.
Yes, yeah.
So, and if somebody really wants to look at everybody who I've added to the company, I go for the brightest, sharpest people that are not locked into this normal big company mindset, and they're not like this. They can think outside the box and say, wow, well, let's think about this, and what about this? And that will be, having somebody else like that at this level is extremely helpful, because then it helps free me up to go have a look at other projects elsewhere in other states.
And I think today you just announced too that you just secured the permits as well for some wildcatting as well.
It is. It's two more for 2 more wells. One is a wildcat, and one would be another infill well.
Yes.
Within the McCauley field. So that's very, very good, very helpful. We have signed a number of MDNAs on the hydrogen aspect. Somebody else was asking, have you lost focus? And it's like, I'm not the slightest bit unfocused.
Yeah.
No, everything takes time and a lot of steps. I'm speaking here in a week and a half in Paris on hydrogen. And then I have a couple more seminars I'm doing. And they're remote. I'm not actually going to Paris for that one, but it's remote. But I will be doing some others. I announced, I'm going to Bangkok to receive an award, but also to speak at the International Association of Drilling Contractors and Association of Petroleum Engineers.
Yes.
So, how do you advance our industry and hydrogen? Because there's a lot of folks that do not understand that hydrogen hasn't been around. It doesn't sit around and have to actually generate the same way that hydrocarbons do, like oil. Oil takes a long time to generate. The half-life of hydrogen is 12.23 years.
Yeah.
And after that, it tends to degrade in almost everywhere in the world. It starts to degrade very quickly. And what we found through tests, the hydrogen we found is extremely young, somewhere between 4 and 14 months.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason. So obviously, somebody had asked me on an email, well, where's it being generated at? I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but obviously it's not being generated in the crust of the earth.
Yes.
This is a function. And so it's like, how can you apply this elsewhere in the world? This market is going to become so huge. I don't need to control. I'm not a control freak. I don't need, other than I will control my internal communications. And again, there's a lot of people want to know, but there's so many things that are so tight. But in trying to speak to different geologic functions and try to get people to think outside the box.
Yep.
And how do you really propel an entire industry, which is very fledgling? And currently, the only other way to do it is it's not cheap to make reprocessed methane into it. That's not cheap. That's the cheapest way to do it. That's not cheap. Or break down water, break down the H2O, and that's not cheap. So this would be the cheapest source of hydrogen, but that does not mean it's a panacea or a cure-all. You don't need to go drill up the world for hydrogen. That's not the intent. It's very site specific, and there's a number of places in the US where I think we can duplicate that. In Canada, there's a couple, and elsewhere outside the US. Most of the places where they have H2S, high hydrogen, hydrogen sulfide gas, it takes a lot of energy to strip it. Plus, then you're dealing with highly corrosive. You have to use different types of cements. When you're cementing the casing in place, then you have to use nickel steel, and everything becomes brittle. And it's not undoable. It's just that race has got to be. It's going to be uber expensive. And it's like I don't want to chase that. Let somebody else. I'm chasing a totally different outside the box to keep this as long-term functional. And that's what I look at for the company. I keep telling people, hey, first of every month, the other day I reset my goals, my 5-year goals. So
excellent. Well, we're into June, and I mean, we're not that far off before, people have been waiting for the big July-ish, and we know that there's lots of work going on behind the scenes, but I think we're all getting closer to that production side and the testing of it. And I think people will start to pay a lot more attention again, even in this crazy markets. Because the one thing I like about like really crazy nutty markets is companies have a chance to rise to the top a lot easier, because some of those other ones that are overvalued, that have been beaten up, may not get the same kind of attention going back in. But companies that are really at a growth point and that can grow and really rise to the top will have a chance to shine. And this is what we're certainly hoping for DME.
That's where the plans are. You look, we have not been insulated from the gyrations in the market of late, and none of the helium space companies have. You look at the resource sector in general; it's been beat up. A lot of the money went out last year, and tax loss sales and everything else. So it got beat up, but not as beat up as some of the other companies where they've lost, recently have lost, 60% of their value.
Absolutely.
We're still in here, and we're still plugging away. So we're getting there.
Excellent. Well, we're going to be watching. We'll have our eyes peeled, and we love the constant updates and the milestones being checked off. And other than people being impatient and desperately wanting good news, I get it. I feel I get excited too. We're definitely on track here with DME, and we're pleased to be able to chat with you and get some time, because I know you're busy. I know you've got lots going on.
Thank you very much, Andrew. You have a great week.
Take care, Robert. Thanks so much.